Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to this inaugural stream with the Dragonforge. I'm Danger, and with me now, please introduce yourself.
Hey guys, I'm Kesh. I'm one of the owners of the Dragonforge, and I specialize in Warhammer 40,000 and Warhammer Age of Sigmar. So 40k and AOS. So yeah,
And tonight, we're going to have a discussion stream about Age of Sigmar
third
3 and,
edition.
yeah, third edition. And we're going to start with some of the notable changes to the AOS rules. So, Kesh, please tell me a little bit about the AOS rules as a person who has bought a set but never actually who's not actually done painting it.
You actually haven't done assembling most of it, so we have to get on that. Like, dude, there's been a pandemic. Assemble. Um, so Age of Sigmar, for those people who actually started very early on in Age of Sigmar, um, wa started with a four-page rule book, right? So it was initially marketed as an easier to play alternative to Warhammer 40k or the original Warhammer Fantasy Battles. Then it got a lot more complex once we got to AOS 2.0. Since AOS 1.0 was kind of there were a lot of fun rules such as getting bonuses depending on your beard length or like actual beard length, automatically losing the game if you kneel for whatever reason. 2.0 generally brought a lot of balance fixes. And with AOS 3.0, we have come full circle with this thick rule book, of which rules constitute around, let's see, how many pages is this?
Oh
Well,
my
it's a lot
god,
of
that is
pages. It's like
thick.
this part of the book is rules. So it used to be like the last four pages were rules. No. So there are a lot of changes, and I'll have the book open like as we discuss through them. All right. So one thing I really like about this edition is they actually patterned it in such a way that it's very easy to reference. It actually reads like a law book. It goes like section 1.1, 1.1.1, 1.1.2. So you can just when there's like a rules question, you can just reference um, section 1.4 or section 1.4.1, which
Wow, so
makes
that
it
really,
a lot easier.
yeah.
There's they actually call this edition like the most comprehensive rule set so far. Some people have called it idiot proof, though so far, some people have been playing games, not us, obviously, because we're still in quarantine. Some people have been playing games, and it is not completely idiot proof, but it's the closest we've come so far. Um, yeah. You still use like the usual. You still use tape measures. You still use dice, your d6s. Nothing's changed on that part. Like it's not that huge of a shunt from AOS 2.0. It actually is AOS 2.0 with a lot of elements of new 40k shoved into it.
Huh,
So
okay.
we're gonna start with those. So how do you want to do this? We can either go through like the turn sequence, or we can go to just like changes. What do you think?
Let's go to turn sequence first. And let's say hi to Michael and Elgin, who seem to be our most active two commenters so far. I mean, if you're already watching, just comment, give us a shout out, and we'll.
Yep. We will be
Thank you. We
reading
appreciate
comments
it.
regularly and like commenting on your comments. So we will be commenting, comment, la. And then you can comment on the comments to our comments of your comments. So yeah, comment spam. All right, so we're gonna start with the turn sequence. The turn sequence is still the same. The biggest difference between 40k and AOS is like the priority roll. At the start of every battle round, instead of like 40k, you just roll at the beginning to see who goes first, and then you just alternate. In Age of Sigmar, there's a priority rule at the start of every turn. So there's a possibility to get like heavily shafted and have like your opponent gain a double turn where they do two consecutive turns in a row. If, for example, they went second on turn one and then first on turn two, that's kind of painful. But since the beginning of AOS, they've been trying to balance this somewhat. In AOS 1.0, like your opponent getting a double turn is just painful.
Death
It,
sentence. Like
yeah,
it was a death sentence. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
It's usually like if someone gets a double turn, that's it. Especially a double turn on like turn 3 or 4 when like you're actually in combat. But now they've actually been trying to balance that out without actually removing the out without removing the priority rules. So before we had stuff like endless spells, and then now we actually have starting command points. So you get like more command points if you are going second, and there are actually benefits also to choosing to go second. um, Going second may actually give you a chance to do the infamous double turn. So
ah,
that's actually a level of tactical complexity that's not present in 40k, where like everyone's going in like a sequential order. Here you
okay.
can actually try to gamble for a double turn, though I particularly don't advise it unless you think it's a safe move. So now
AKA
the turn
strong
sequence.
army, or you have a
Um,
contingency plan of some
if
sort.
you are a shooting army, for example, with your your opponent still across the board, like nowhere near you, it's totally safe. Like your opponent getting a double turn will not hurt that much. Sure, they get like double movement, but what are they gonna do? Yell at you? Though in some cases, yelling at you causes mortal wounds, like terrorgeists. But this we'll get to the negatives of this edition later, but one of them is actually shooting. So, all right. So, turn sequence. We start with the hero phase. So, during the hero phase, you can actually spend stuff called command points. You gain command points at the start of every battle round instead of every one of your turns, so that you actually have command points at the start of the game to be able to do stuff, defend against your opponent. Unlike in 2.0, if you got the second turn and your opponent went first, you can't really use any of the defensive command abilities. So, another huge change here. It used to be that only generals and characters could use the various command abilities. In AOS 1.0, it was just your general. AOS 2.0, it's like any character, and as long as you have the command ability, suspend. Meanwhile, in AOS 3.0, it's actually any unit champion can issue commands to their own unit. So for anyone who played AOS 2.0, um, everyone is basically Aussie Arc Gravelords now. Like Games Workshop hates death. We get all the nice things, and everyone gets all the nice things that are supposed to be ours because they hate us. They hate us. And so heroes can issue like command abilities to anyone wholly within 12 inches of them. Generals can issue commands to units wholly within 18 of them. And stuff with the totems keyword, which is new, can issue commands to units that are wholly within 18 inches. I'm not sure if we had totems in the previous edition because I come from the faction of death, which Games Workshop hates. So we don't get shooting, we don't get like a lot of stuff, we don't get priests. So once we actually get to the prayers, I'm just going to gloss over it because if you want to learn prayers, you should not be talking to the death guy. So, all right. So during the hero phase, they introduced something called heroic actions. So a unit with a hero keyword, which is basically a hero, can at the start of your hero phase, you can carry out one heroic action with one friendly hero. There's actually four of them, which is heroic leadership, which just gives an additional command point on a roll. There's heroic willpower, which allows you to deny the witch or unbind the spell once, even if you are not a wizard. Normally, that's not a thing you can do unless you're a wizard or late or now a priest, because like Games Workshop wants to sell Stormcast Eternals with lots of priests. Um, their finest hour, which is pick one friendly hero, add one to wound rolls for attacks made by that hero until the end of the turn, and add one to save rolls for attacks that target that hero until the end of the turn, which is really, really, really strong. But at least it's only once per game because
Only
it's
once per game.
yes, it's once per game because it's ridiculous. It's like a plus one tier save rolls. There are already ways to get the 2+ armor save here, or even a 1+ on occasion. But like the changes to modifiers means that you can't really like stack on modifiers like you could in previous editions. So having a 2 up is actually a big deal. Especially some may remember as I see Vian, the resident AOS Salt Boy, watching. He remembers the time
Hello,
where he was
Vian.
complaining about like the Chaos Warriors all having 4+ saves and there like being very little 3+ saves in his army. Now there's like various ways to get 2+ saves. There are a lot of 3+ saves that can be modified with like command abilities, role modifiers, etc. And the final heroic action is the heroic recovery, which basically just heals. Uh, you basically roll 2d6. If it's less than your bravery, you can heal up to d3, which again used to be just a thing that death did, but now everyone gets to regenerate as if they were a vampire.
So, as a Death player, how do you feel about other factions now having the things that Death used to be able to do?
Hmm. On a scale of on a saltiness scale of between 1 to 10, I'd say the Dead Sea.
The Dead Sea. Oh, yeah, that
Yes,
makes
and
sense.
we're not talking about Vian. We're talking about the saltiest body of water in the world, which may also be used to describe Vian. So, hello, Vian. So, okay.
Let's
So
also
there
say hello
are
to MT
yes,
and
right.
Jonathan, who said
Actually,
hi.
yeah.
Hello.
Let's say hi to all the people in the chat. So, hi to Michael Lim, to Elgin. We haven't seen you in a while. Hey, John. I see you're actually watching instead of reading. And Mike, Michael, I see you are painting Night Haunt, you poor boy. Uh, and yeah, and Milan. Okay, so there are also a lot of command abilities that vary per faction that you can use in the hero phase, which we won't really dwell on. Like the only one that's universal is the rally, which is use the command ability. And here's the painful bit. This is why I am salty.
Okay,
Rally.
painful bit. Let's get ready for the painful bit.
Rally. Okay, no, no, it's painful for me. It's good for literally everyone else, but I am incredibly salty because like it's roll one die for each slain model from that unit, and on a 6 you resurrect one. Everyone is a skeleton warrior now. Note how salty I am.
Wait, what?
Yes, so basically you can try to resurrect slain models from your unit even if you're not a death player. So I am very, 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 very salty, though not as salty as the Slanesh players this edition, as we will talk about later.
Ooh, I'm
All right, yeah,
excited to hear about Slanesh.
yeah. Slanesh got heavily shafted, which she it may or may not enjoy. So let's move on to the movement phase. So the movement phase is now actually divided into three different things, which is the normal move, which is a normal move. You move equal to your move characteristic. If you don't know how to do a normal move, just, yeah. So then the second is retreat. If you are actually in combat, in engagement range of an enemy model or an enemy unit, you can fall back. However, you can no longer charge or shoot after retreating. And the last one is run. To make a run roll, you add a d6, you add it to your movement, and you do that. And you cannot shoot or attempt a charge later in the turn if you ran, unless you have a special cheesy rule that lets you run and shoot or run and charge. I believe, I'm not sure, do orcs in AOS have run and charge? If you know the answer, just comment it in the comments. Like, glorious destruction players, hats off to you guys. You got like totally new models from that are totally not Lord of the Rings orcs. Okay, so the movement phase command abilities are at the double, which is just your instead of rolling a d6 for the run, it's an automatic 6. So if you really want like that sure run, this is very important for very slow melee factions like Death. So yeah, Death players like to use this a lot. The zombie horde will not be doing damage until it's in your face. So yeah, unlike those wimpy elves which will shoot you from across the board or swim across with their eels. Um,
Is
then we
that's
have
just a
mhm.
thing in nearly every universe. The elves are considered wimpy.
They're actually not wimpy. They are stupidly broken this edition. We will discuss
Ah.
why once we get to the charge phase. The charge phase. Anyway, the charge phase used to be my favorite. Now it's not. Now it's my least favorite. Okay, so redeploy. So redeploy is basically um hmm, you can use this command ability in the enemy movement phase after an enemy unit finishes a move. And then the unit that receives the command must be 9 inches of that enemy unit and more than 3 inches away from enemy units, which means they must be close enough within 9, but also outside of combat. Then you can make a d6 move, this d6-inch move with that unit. Basically, if they come close to you, you can like nope. You
Nope.
can like nope. Guababe, Amigusta, Sayonara.
Eat.
So that's another trick that's really good for the elves. Why do they keep giving the elves good things? So um, movement is still movement. The coherency rules are actually a bit more complicated now because for units greater than 6, you actually have to have two models within coherency range, unlike in previous edition where it was just one. So doing gigantic conga lines is no longer a viable tactic for most armies. It can still be a viable tactic for armies with very large units with very large bases. For example, cavalry. Like cavalry have like huge bases. You can just stretch 5 of them along, and it's still like screening off a significant portion of the board, which is nice. So there's also a change where unit sizes are generally smaller in this edition due to the changes in reinforcements. We'll get to that in list building. Terrain is still terrain. Flying is still flying. You can still flying units can still do the normal flying things that flying units do. The shooting phase, nothing has really changed much in the shooting phase. It's the shooting phase is actually the shortest section here. It's like a third of a page. Yeah.
A
So
third of a
it's
page.
basically choose something. If it's in range, shoot it. You can still split your shots.
Straightforward.
If you're in combat, you can only shoot what you're in combat with. And there's still lookouts, sir, where if the target is an enemy hero within 3 inches of an enemy unit, you have to subtract one from your hit roll. It's not as good as 40k where you can't be targeted at all. So sniping your enemy's characters is still a very viable tactic for shooting armies, particularly against armies that are very reliant on your heroes, like Death. See,
Hi,
this
Dandy.
edition hates me, right?
Yep,
Hates me.
yep. I've
So
always I, I haven't played much, but I've always been curious about the lookout, sir.
mm,
I've seen players play that with no limitations. Is it still the same in this edition? Like all your little subordinate units can do the lookout, sir, and not get and basically protect your
okay.
leader unit.
What you are remembering is the old seventh edition lookouts are for
Ah,
40k, which is roll a 4 plus to save a character or a 2 plus to save an independent character. Here it's just a flat -1 to shooting against the
ah,
character. So yeah, it's no restrictions. It's just a negative modifier.
okay.
Finally, we get to the charge phase, formerly my favorite part of the game, but now something I am looking forward to with dread. Lots of dread. So, charging is still if you're within 12, roll 2d6. If you get to within half inch of an enemy model, you're in combat. Nothing has changed on that part. However, the painful bit. There are now charge phase command abilities. It used to just be the forward to victory, which is reroll the charge roll, which is fair. It's in every Warhammer game. It's in 40k. It's in AOS. It's been there for a while. It's been there for as long as I've been playing. I'm not sure with some of our older players. We do have a lot of older people here in our community, such as not gonna name names, Giano Igonko. Um, and now here's the salty bit. It's a rule called Unleash Hell. I will read out to you the full text because I just hate it so much. Unleash Hell. You can use this command ability after an enemy unit finishes a charge move. The unit that receives the command must be within 9 inches of that enemy unit and more than 3 inches away from all enemy units. The unit that receives the command can shoot in that phase, but when it does so, you must subtract 1 from the hit rolls for its attacks, and it can only target the unit that made the charge move. Basically, it's 40k Overwatch, but on steroids. Instead of like just hitting on sixes, you only have a -1 to hit, and there's a lot of shooting in this game that that likes to fish for mortal wounds on a 6 to hit or 6 to wound. Well, particularly a 6 to hit. So if you roll a 6 to hit, you deal a mortal wound instead or in addition. And like the -1 does absolutely nothing to that. In particular, like the biggest offender for this one be the elves.
Ah,
Yeah, the luminate shooting blob. I see we have Eric here, like tuning in. But wait, I'm supposed to pronounce your CH in the German way, Eric, like Ahmed. So he
ah,
will confirm for us that like the giant blob of 30 lumineth sentinels is horribly disgusting. Um, at the moment, with the current state of the game, if you see that across from you, like across the table from you, you can just like not set up your models. You can just back up, just go home, just go home, just play something else. um, okay, there are ways to mitigate this per army, and we will talk about like ways to mitigate the absolute disgusting cheese, which is unleash hell, which I hate. I absolutely hate. Like if there's anything in this book I hate, it's this. I hate this. Like I absolutely hate this. I can accept any of the other changes except this. This is disgusting. Particularly
okay.
because I don't have any shooting in my army. They refuse to give me skeleton archers. Then the combat phase. The combat phase has not changed. Um, there's still the fight sequence. The fight sequence still does not give priority for charging units. So you still the active player still chooses one, then opponent chooses one, then you alternate until there are no more units that can fight. So absolutely nothing has changed in that regard. We won't really go into like the attacking sequence because like nothing much has changed. Gee, nothing has changed. Still the same thing. Which is, like don't mess with a good thing. It's just roll to hit, roll to wound, roll saves. Though they actually introduced something called the ward save, which comes back from the ancient Warhammer fantasy battle played by our ancient
Oh,
ancestors. Yes. Um, in the beginning of time, what we used to call feel no pain rolls in 40k were known as ward saves in the glories of Warhammer Age of Sigmar, named after our spiritual liege Matt Ward. Like, okay, fine, it's a ward save that wards you from damage, but like I still feel it coming back is a sign that Matt Ward is coming back. And Matt Ward put Unleash Hell there because he likes elves. I see you there, Matt Ward. And I don't like you. Okay, so um everything else is the same. Mortal wounds are mortal wounds. You can't save them except with abilities that can save mortal wounds, which there are actually a lot of in this edition, despite what Vian said, like Vian bitches about a lot. Chaos Warriors actually do have a lot of survivability because there are a lot of mortal wound spams in this game, and Slaves to Darkness, or are lovingly named STD, actually has yeah, the acronym is STD. So they are actually best brought in a Slanesh army or a Nurgle army.
yeah, that
Uh,
sounds about right.
mhm.
Like
So
I would even like.
STDs actually have a lot of ways to mitigate the mortal wounds with their chaos shields of chaos. Then the battle shock phase is the same thing. The battle shock phase, you roll bravery, then for each point that your battle shock roll exceeds your unit's bravery, you remove one model. Yeah, that's the same thing as always. And if a friendly unit is not coherent at the end of the turn, if it's outside like unit coherency, you have to remove models one at a time from play until it's coherent, which can be tricky for a lot of players because if you don't know that this rule exists, it's for everyone there, new players, it's 15.2, especially for you horde players. Horde players, my brothers,
Yeah,
do
you
not
hordes.
remove models from the center of your unit to like in such a way that they fall out of coherency. Otherwise, if they happen to be like two blobs like here and here, you have to get rid of one of them. You have to remove models one by one until everything is coherent. So if there's a gap in the middle of your battle line, rip. It may actually be a better idea sometimes to get rid of your unit champion in order to not lose coherency. It's obviously a case to case basis, but that's something you have to keep in mind as a horde player. If you're not a horde player, if you are a Stormcast Eternals player, for example, or an Archeon Varangard player, or anything that's relies on multiple small units or big things, monsters, etc., you don't need to worry about this. Or if you play Sons of Behemoth, which is basically like placing three giants on the table and calling it an army, you just ignore the battle shock phase. Like it does not matter to you. Also, if you're an Ossiarch Bone Reaper player, this phase does not matter to you, but you still need to learn it so that you can remove your opponent's models for being scared of your skeletons. Um, and we have the Inspiring Presence command ability, which has been there since the beginning of AOS, which is basically choose one unit and they are immune to battle shock. So you can be Ossiarch Bone Reapers for one turn. Okay, so skip the terrain bit, skip the objective bits. It's generally the same thing. Like wizards cast spells, endless spells are still endless spells, but there's a difference now here with endless spells is that your um, your heroes can actually it used to be that the endless spells at the start of every game turn will be can be moved even by the player who didn't summon it, depending on the situation. Now it's only the player who cast it. So congratulations, everyone is Seraphon now, or someone who also had this before Seraphon had it was Ozzyarch Bone Reapers, because like Death cannot have exclusive things. It must be like distributed to everyone. I
Well,
don't know.
death is
Sure, Trump is
universal.
communist. So uh I'm seeing you, comrade. So yes. Uh what was I gonna say? Okay, I was gonna salt. We can skip that. And yes. So while you can cast multiple endless spells, it's not recommended because having multiple endless spells out is the only way for your enemies to steal your endless spells, unless you're Seraphon. Because,
I
lizards.
keep hearing about how good lizards are in this edition. Uh,
Yes, they are.
why are they much better now? Okay.
You have the
As a
only one
lizards
plus
player,
save in the game.
this could you repeat that? I got
You
your
have
sound a
the
little bit weird.
only one plus save in the game, Mr. Doctor.
Oh,
Which you still fail it on a one. But like
yeah, of
if
course.
you have like a negative one rend modifier, it's still a two plus, which is hilarious because it normally it's the first rend that matters the most in both 40k and AOS, and you get diminishing returns after that. But for the Bastiladon with its one plus save, it utterly negates the one minus one rend. The only army that cares less for minus one rend less than like the Bastiladon does is Night Hunt, because they ignore any positive or negative rend modifiers because they have an invul save, because they are spooky mumu.
Spooky Mumu.
Spooky mumu. And I hope they get a lot of love this edition from Games Workshop, because they haven't been updated since the start of AOS 2.0. Uh, okay, fine. They got the character in the Broken Realms releases, but I don't count that. It's tiny compared to like what other factions got. So yes. Now priests. Priests actually got a big boost. They can do like prayers. So what do the prayers do? I'm not gonna tell you because we don't have any priests. So like I actually skipped reading this entire bit. But generally, something that priests can do is they can dispel what you call it, enemy endless spells. But like they also have their own equivalent of endless spells called invocations. So it stays on the board. Interacts exactly like an endless spell, but while priests can dispel endless spells, wizards cannot dispel invocations. Why? Games Workshop hates death.
Do the priests here also get reassigned when they do something bad?
You will have to ask a faction with priests. Besides. No, Eric, I am not going to give you priests. Hello, it's Becca. Hello, Becca. So, monsters. All right. Monsters are actually one of the nicest change in this edition. Um, every faction has monsters. So, like, if you know of a faction that doesn't have monsters, let me know in the comments. but I'm pretty sure everyone is a monster at this point because like it's AOS, it's big things on the field, and it's hero hammer. Shut up, Vian. Death did not have it good for too long, and so monsters now got something called monstrous rampage. So each player can carry out one monstrous rampage at the end of the charge phase with each friendly monster. So there are four different ones. So you can't carry out the same monstrous rampage more than once per phase. But if you have like four monsters, you can do each of them. Right? So let's start with Roar. Roar is incredibly powerful in an edition that spams command abilities. Pick one enemy unit within 3 inches of this model, which makes sense because it's at the end of the charge phase, and roll a die. On a 3 plus, that unit cannot issue or receive command abilities in the following combat phase, which is an utter like is utterly painful for factions that rely on buffs, particularly to their battle line units to make like strong anvils like death. But it also affects other factions, not just death. I'm just salty that it doesn't affect shooting factions like elves.
Breaking officially assault stream. Guess about death.
Yes. All right, but then there's Stomp. Stomp is nice. Stomp is pick an enemy unit within 3 that is not a monster and roll a die. On a 2 plus, it suffers D3 mortal wounds. You step on it. Easy, simple. It's mortal wounds. Like if you can't decide on anything else, Stomp. Like if unsure, Stomp. Titanic Duel is really nice. You pick one monster within 3 inches of this model, and then you add hit rolls. You add one to all hit rolls made by that monster against another monster for the entire combat phase. So you're basically like a monster slayer monster now, which is particularly good if you're mounted on a monster like a vampire lord on zombie dragon, uh, or big things that have monster like Morathi, that are monstrous. They're big. They have the monster keyword. Um, which is really cool because it emphasizes the big fights between big things. So your biggest monster slayer right now is a monster as well. So GW actually is encouraging you to bring less hordes and more gigantic, expensive pieces of plastic.
That sounds like G Dub.
Hmm.
Gotta
Which
set those
is
up then.
actually, which depending on your faction may actually turn out cheaper.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Skaven, for example. We know someone in the comments. We're not gonna name him. He may identify himself, who had 100 clan rats at one point, and like that's just painful, man. And that was just 300 points back in like the ancient days of Warhammer Fantasy Battle. And then the last Monsters Rampage, my particular favorite is Smash to Rubble. A lot of factions in Age of Sigmar actually get their own special terrain feature that costs no points, come with your army. You just plop
Cost
it
no
on,
points.
and then it does things. Like the um, the Sea Elf one is like a ship, which it used to deal like mortal wounds and like give bonuses to like people within near to enemies and friends nearby. But now it's just a garrisonable thing. So you can put your blind elven archer thingies, which I have nothing against. Sea elves. Your archers are okay. It's your eels that are a problem, but at least I can kill them in melee. So yeah, I have nothing against the sea elves. Sea elves are cool. Dark elves, nothing against the dark elves. They have zero shooting. Just like it's really just the high elves, which are the luminous realm lords, which are stoned to the nine hells. Apparently, their lore is they actually OD on like some sort of realm stone dust. and then yeah, and then you get a boost for a turn, but then like you suffer withdrawal.
Oh.
Yeah, they're literal high elves. So anyway, back to Smash and
Ah.
Rubble. On a 3+, the defense, the terrain features demolish if it was defensible. So if you have like ruins on the field that people can like garrison, you can wreck that, or you can remove the abilities, the scenery rules on a war scroll for a faction terrain feature, which means like the Ossiarch, Bone Reaper, giant what I call the Bayad Center, since it's where they actually put that monolith up outside the city, and then the city has to like offer the tithe of bones there. So it's like the Nagash
Bayad
Bayad
Center.
Center. Yeah,
Nagash Bayad Center. Yeah. Yeah.
yes. And then it also works on the high elf waterfall thingy, which boosts magic. It works on the aforementioned sea elf shipwreck. So any faction terrain really. I believe Lumineth get a pyramid, like an Aztec pyramid. Like I can send you the link later, but like you want it, it's cool. Uh, yeah. So War Scrolls not much really changed. Same old, same old. Um, pitch battle profiles. Yes. Okay. Pitch battle profiles. Something that actually changed really, really. Well, it's a really, really big change that it used to be in the General's Handbook, which we are borrowing Eric's copy for today because I forgot to order my own because I'm a dum dum. Which is nice because it has a rules reference on the back. Can you guys see that? Yes, it actually has like the various command abilities you can use per phase that are universal on the back of the GHB. You
Like it
also
really
have
does make it easier for new players, doesn't it? Like this
yes,
new rule system. Compared to past editions, how would you say it compares to past editions in terms of how easy it is for a new player to get into the game?
it's obviously not as easy to learn as AOS 1.0, which was 4 pages, but it's still pretty simple. Honestly, you can use the 4 page rulebook to teach someone to play and then just move into this. There's like very few changes. Um, well, very few core changes. There are a lot of small tweaks here and there, but like actually learning the game is still pretty simple comparatively compared to like the old Warhammer Fantasy Battle, which was so overly complex that I never actually learned the movement phase correctly before they blew up the planet. All right. So the huge thing is we now have something called reinforcement points. So depending on the size of game that you're playing, you have a certain amount of reinforcement points. If you look at the pitch battle profiles for like a unit, you can see the war scroll name, the unit size, the points, and then its battlefield role, which is still the old one, like battle line leader, um, behemoth, etc. However, the big change here is that it no longer shows you the minimum and maximum unit size. It just shows you the minimum unit size. Why? Because the way this works now is it's the minimum unit size. You spend the reinforcement point to double it. You can only spend the reinforcement point once if the unit is not battle line, and you can do it up to twice if it is a battle line. So, for example, the we shall take um, my poor skeleton warriors. They used to go from 10 to 400. Sorry, 10 to 400. 10 to 40, um 10 to 40 skeletons, and then you pay like per 10. Now it starts at 10. I can pay a reinforcement point and like the additional points to get 20. I can pay another reinforcement point to bring it up to 30, as well as paying the requisite amount of points for the unit. But then I can no longer bring it to 40. So in general, there have been a lot of tweaks in the pitch battle profiles. A lot of units that are meant to be spammed have actually gotten their minimum unit size increased. Like direwolves went from minimum 5 to minimum 10, so that you can double it up to 20. Um, Zombies are now minimum 20 as well, which means if you were lucky enough to get the Cursed City box set for well, the board game before it was erased from existence for whatever reason by Games Workshop, you can't just play with those 10 zombie warriors. You need like more zombies to make a minimum unit of 20, which is unfortunate because I also don't have more zombies, so I can't play the zombies. And yeah, you yes. So that's how the reinforcements work. Another change to list building is that they remove those fancy little battalions that everyone got in their army books. Used to be you have something called the War Scroll Battalion, and then it specifies a number of units that you have to take to get a specific bonus, and then you pay a specific amount of points. Now, the problem with this is some armies got hilariously good ones, and some armies got hilariously bad ones. And in every army book, there are just like one or two usable ones. The rest are chaff. So um, it was actually a problem game balance wise. In particular, well, particularly notorious offenders are the disciples of Zinch with their change host. You will, if you actually type like change host list, you will like see so much salt on the internet because of how strong they were. So that's actually a change for the better. Now we have universal core battalions, which are similar to detachments in 40k, like our battalion detachment, our brigade detachment, etc., where you take like, for example, one minimum hero, two minimum battle line, and then you get a specific bonus. For example, the battle regiment, which is the closest one to what we have in 40k, which is which is the old 40k combined arms detachment, is basically one hero and two troops. So one hero and two battle line is you get a bonus called Unified, which is one drop deployment. When you alternate deploying at the start of the game with your opponent, everything in that battle regiment counts as one drop. So you can have up to like three heroes, five battle line, and one monster or artillery going down in one drop, and which may help you get the first turn if you want it, or the second turn if you want that. So it gives you a lot of flexibility when it comes to deployment. There's also the warlord one, which focuses on having a lot of heroes, which gives you swift, which well, a lot of these are basically you can just give an additional you can, it's a usually a once per battle command ability depending on the battalion. So I do recommend getting the core rules for that. Yes. The core rules comes in all the starter sets as a separate book, and in the Dominion box set. We will be discussing that once we get to the uh, the starter sets for Age of Sigmar. So yeah, we don't actually have to go into detail on the different core battalions. There are a lot of things said
I
about this
think
on the
that's
internet.
something we
Yeah,
can do in another stream. Yeah,
yeah,
the core battalions.
yes. Actually, yeah, we can just discuss the different core battalions. One thing to note: if you are an Ossiarch Bone Reaper player, which means you are a Death player, Games Workshop hates your guts because a lot of the battalion bonus abilities you can't use. It basically says in our FAQ that you can't use this. because the Ossiarch Bone Reapers, for those who don't know, don't use command points. They use the Relentless Discipline points, which is how command points work now, but it used to be something unique to Ossiarch Bone Reapers, which is really, really, really painful. Okay, so
Oh, before we go into the next section, I'd like to
yes,
remind all the participants to sign up for the giveaway. Just it's the link is in the description. We'll call out your name at the end of this if you won something.
yes.
So
So, link is in the description. Like, sign up for it. You actually get the freebies. You can either pick it up when we reopen the physical store, or we can ship it to you, or we can just you can just get it with your next order. Totally fine. We are very flexy.
yeah,
So
and the freebies are Kragnos Shield keychain, Age of Sigmar pins. They're real. Could you show us sketch so that
okay,
the
I'm not sure
participants
it will
know if
look
they're
really
interested?
good on camera, but we will try.
It looks
So
pretty pimp, especially that pin that I
yes.
unfortunately cannot win.
Okay. First off, we have this a very very nice orc Kragnos pin. Everyone who ordered a Dominion box set got all of these freebies. So good for you guys. We actually have one more Dominion box set in stock. So you will get a full set of these giveaways if you buy the Dominion box set. Um, we have art cards, which are like postcards, but like without the actual postcard thing at the back.
Yeah,
So they're really just for art. I haven't actually opened the bunch, but from past experience, it's gonna be a lot of orc art and Stormcast art. My personal favorite is this, the Age of Sigmar pin. It is metal. It is beautiful. It is
it
pretty.
looks beautiful. Like
It is gorgeous.
it's
Yes.
making me want to paint my army, sort of. It's
And
raining. I
then
can't prime. It's raining.
we have the card sleeves, which are for your War Scroll cards. Um, the War Scroll cards are something you purchase separately from your army, and it's basically like the War Scrolls in your book, but in card form, which makes it like easier when you're actually playing on the go. And if you buy like a starter set or any box set, it actually comes with the War Scrolls for those units in the box. So there's 16 here, and they are enough for the contents of the Dominion box set. However, I regret to inform everyone that these sleeves do not fit the character and enemy profile cards from the Cursed City game. So if you were looking to use them for Cursed City, no puedo. Okay? No se puede. All right. So those are our various giveaways, which we will be giving away at the end of the stream. So there are a lot more like nitty gritty things here, like enhancements, how enhancements work, how artifacts work. Though we should probably do that in a separate stream because it's actually very very finicky. We also have like universal command traits, artifacts, and like spell lores now, and prayer scriptures for people with priests. So yeah, the next thing we have to discuss is the battle pack. The battle pack was introduced with the ninth edition Warhammer 40k. So this is what we get whenever we get a chapter approved. It basically shows you the missions for that season for competitive play, and it gives you various extra rules and flavor depending on what the campaign or the season is. So for this particular season, there's a battle pack, like the standard battle pack in the main rule book, but we also have one in the GHB, the General's Handbook. So the General's Handbook now is focused on the realm of beasts, the realm of Gur. So everyone with the destruction themed army, you guys are like the big bad guys of the setting this edition. Prepare to get heavily shafted at the end, like what they did to my baby Nagash. Moment of silence. Okay. So we actually, as befitting of the realm of beasts and destruction, and you know the entire storyline with Kragnos doing his destruction-y thing, and like the Lord of the Rings orcs coming to the Age of Sigmar. We have bonuses to monsters here, and there's actually one ability here that lets you give the monster keyword to one of your heroes that doesn't already have it, which allows it then to use the monstrous actions. So you can have your wimpy elf archer lord guy, whatever he's called, roar at an enemy, or like stomp something flat or destroy terrain. It's pretty cool. Um, it also has like the various things that you will be using in pitch battle, like the battle plans, so like deployment maps, etc., the actual missions. And there's actually most recent one also has the the updated rules for the endless spells from malign sorcery and the other one, which I cannot recall. Yeah. So there's also a copy of the core rules in here, which is nice to reference to. But for some things, you will still need the main core rulebook, such as the various ways to play thing. The GHB only gives you match play. If you There are two other ways to play Age of Sigmar, which are only in the big core rulebook, which are open play and narrative play. Now, literally no one I have ever heard of has played open play. I think it's it's a waste of paper, honestly. No one plays open play. So open play is basically like bring whatever you want and then just play, like no balance whatsoever. But it can be good for like storytelling and stuff, but like that's why we have narrative play. So I don't really see the point of it other than having the option to do so. For example, if you just want to create a massive battle, but you can do that with the narrative systems and matched play systems. Um, so now we have something called Path to Glory. It used to be no one played Path to Glory because Path to Glory is the narrative campaign thing of Age of Sigmar, where you have to have like an existing collection of models already, and then you have to roll to see like which ones you get. So it's really for people who have a lot of like who have the entire collection, which is not everyone. And it was very finicky to play with, so like people didn't really get into it. However, now Path to Glory is actually very similar to what you call it, to Warhammer 40k Crusade, in which you start with a Path to Glory roster, and then you one sec, the dog is barking. I do not know why. Okay, so um, what was I saying? Right, very similar to Crusade. You start with a Path to Glory roster of units, then you build up your army slowly, narratively. You give them bonuses, etc. You actually also have like territory, so there's like a base building element to it. Though the base building element doesn't really come into play when you're playing the game, but it allows you to like give bonuses to your army depending on what territories you have, etc. So like having an old heap will increase your heroes limit, or having a mine will let you increase your war machine limit. Having a small settlement can increase your reinforced units limit by one. So it's a bunch of these things. So as you progress, you grow your territory, your warlord gains experience, some things can die, some things can you can actually do like quests. So it's a way of playing in such a way that you can actually take your Path to Glory campaign, play it with literally anyone else also playing Path to Glory, and it doesn't matter that you started in the same place, or if you started at the same time, or you're even like fighting it in the same storyline, because it's your personal storyline for your army. So you're writing it as you go along. But there are still ways to tie it up as a big campaign as a whole, um, which is pretty simple. You just make an overarching storyline, which we are doing for our Tale of N Warlords. However, one gripe that I may have with the Path to Glory system is that it's how do we say, it's the options for bonuses and abilities are very sparse when compared to Warhammer 40k Crusade. There are a lot less options and it's a lot more bland until we actually get more Path to Glory stuff in our separate army books, which also Death got shafted because we got like the last one before the edition changed,
We should
so
have
we
a
don't get
salt
the new Path to
counter.
Glory stuff.
We should have a
Yes,
salt about death counter for these
we can
streams.
do an entire stream of me salting about death. Honestly,
Yeah.
like, we will fill 4 hours. So yeah, yes, we can do a quick fact. Let's look at the comments and like answer some
Okay.
questions.
Yeah, let's answer some questions. I saw a question earlier from. Wait. Does this mean ghouls are strong in AOS 3 from Michael Lim?
Okay, ghouls. Hmm. Ghouls are currently like middle tier, middle top tier from like the results I've been seeing. Since most of the world isn't actually participating in tournaments right now, it's mostly like Australia or New Zealand. But in those places, they are upper middle tier. They're completely playable. They're not super strong. They're not like they're not something that you automatically see on the top tables of an event, but they can get there if the player is smart enough. The main problem with ghouls is their army roster is very small. So because the army roster itself, like the unit choices are very small, you also only have a specific number of builds that you can do, which limits your flexibility and does make you easier to counter. So I would
Oh,
say they're okay, but they're not the strongest. We'll probably see more like with more games, or if you get like a new army book, we will see. It's early. There's still a plague. Not many people are playing.
uh, let's shout out to Louis. Hello, Louis.
Hello,
Wish you were
Lulu.
here.
Okay,
Miss you,
so
our master of the house.
I see Louis asking like the campaign format with champions earning buffs. Yes, we discussed that in the Path to Glory. It's pretty sparse right now. Like everyone just has to roll on the generic traits and the generic tables, or choose on the generic tables. But expect to see more when the army books come out. Um, and yes, people do seriously use the cards. I use the cards. Anyone who has a starter set uses the cards. I believe Patrick buys War Scroll cards for every army he collects, which is pretty cool. I do so as well. Um,
I
and
would do so
yes,
as
Eric,
well
you
if
do get the
yeah.
core rules for free online. You just don't get the Path to Glory stuff without the book. So you don't actually have to buy the book unless you want to play narrative or open play. But there's also like a shit ton of fluff there. So if you're a fluff man, great thing, right? So people are just like posting names of armies, and then asking how good they are. Okay, Caradron Overlords. They are a shooty army, which means they are looking good this edition. They got points hikes, but everyone got points hikes. They weren't shafted as hard as some other factions like Slanesh. Um, and in general, they still play the same. They are still Glass Hammer. You will have an amazing first round of shooting, but then once someone touches you, you go bye bye. They're not like the classic dwarves from Warhammer Fantasy Battle where they just stand there and never die. Michael is asking about Aura Quarklands. I actually haven't checked on Aura Quarklands. Their book is like fairly new. They have a lot of options, so it's gonna take a while for us to actually see any data on them. But I really like the idea of orc snipers, um, shooty orcs, cunning orcs. Um, so let's see how they fare on the battlefield. Though I feel like their cavalry are gonna be a strong option, and their hordes are gonna be as good as ever. Tomb Kings 2.0, aka the Ossiarch Bone Reapers. If you play Ossiarch Bone Reapers, I'm sorry, Zach. Our Ossiarch Bone Reapers are gonna be staying on the shelf for a while until we get a new book, because we are one of the most shafted factions. Because everything that makes us special, everyone else got, except for the immunity to battle shock. Everyone can regen now. Everyone can
Oh, there's a
everyone
question
can
about ogres and
cast
Seraphon.
abilities with their units now. So not the best time to be an Ossiarch Bone Reaper player. Slanesh, yes, the Slanesh is probably okay with this, but like Slanesh gods, if you go on the internet, like the amount of salt of Slanesh play on like the Slanesh nerfs, it's like they were really strong when they came out. Then they were adjusted, and now they got hammered like to the floor and below. Like the amount of hammering Slanesh received, like the Slanesh faction received, is enough to make even Slanesh go like say a safe word. Like it's really bad. Like the points are too high. Some units are unusable. It's really, really very bad. But you're hoping for like an update to Slanesh, because like the internet has been very loud, and even non-Slanesh players are like, "Come on, guys! Like, give him a buff, like, please." It's so bad. And ogres are actually one of the armies that benefit from the shift to small units, because they have very big models, very expensive models. They are an elite army, so that will be very relevant in the coming edition. I actually haven't seen any reviews so far, but we will see. But I don't expect them to be top tier. I'd expect them to be somewhere in the middle of the pack. Um, Seraphon, as I have mentioned before, Seraphon are the premier magic army because Games Workshop hates Nagash. We were previously the premier magic army. Then Zinch was the premier magic army. Then Seraphon became the premier magic army. Some argue that Lumineth are now the premier magic army, but I still think it's Seraphon because Lumineth magic is strong, but it's completely overshadowed by the Sentinel blob of death and Unleash Hell. If you play that um, on a table in a friendly game, like on a tournament, sure, you're forgiven. It's a tournament, it's competitive, but if you bring that to a friendly game, you do not deserve to have friends. Okay. Yes. Someone always gets shafted every edition. This is a common thing. It happens. Um, the power creep is real. But Games Workshop have actually been more active with their FAQs and balance adjustments lately, compared to how they've been super lazy fair in the past. So I so we did get like a toning down of the Lumineth but it didn't really do much. So people are clamoring for more balanced options for the Lumineth, and like, please just have mercy on Slanesh. Have mercy. And yes, a lot of the Dragonforge players are casual players. A lot of us play like fluff lists or narrative lists. Um, for example, on 40k, shout out to Milan who's doing a Reaver list for his Space Marine chapter. And as anyone who plays Space Marines knows, Reavers are the worst unit in the Space Marine Codex and have been ever since they were released. They're like a joke. They are the pyrovores of the Space Marines, and he's building an army of them, and it's glorious. So hats off for Milan. Like, if you know Milan, next time you see Milan, you pat him on the back, you shake his hand, and then you alcohol because there's still a plague.
Yeah,
And
because we love to have fun at the forge.
yes, we do love to have fun. And yeah, I believe War Machine is a lot more focused towards competitive play compared to like any of the Warhammer systems. Warhammer systems are more tweaked towards the narrative, swingy, fun gameplay, as opposed to like extreme game balance. Um, and Games Workshop does like to say that they're a model company who just happens to make the rules as well, but at least they've been actively making an effort to do rules balances and rules patches relatively more often now than they have before. Um, and yes, Michael, GW does buff the newest armies until the next pack, but not always. There are some that have been released in that nice sweet spot that that didn't really require tweaking. Examples of armies that are strong but are not broken are basically any army I play, completely fair, always fair. Um, yeah, anyone who says otherwise is lying to you. Yes, yes, I only ever play fair, balanced lists. So, any other questions before we proceed to our Rafael?
Yes. And sign up now. We only have until like 8:45 to sign up for the raffle.
Yep, we have 3 minutes before the raffle ends, friends. So, I'm gonna say the cheesy thing and like hit like on our Facebook page, and like there's no subscribe here because this is not YouTube. I was about to say like and subscribe. Um, but yeah, do sign up for the raffle. I see like 11 of you watching right now. And we will be rolling in a few. Okay, and now I'm getting a lot of hate from the comment section. I don't know why. Uh, I don't think people like how I balance my armies, but
You're
they're
a
so bad.
cheeser, Kesh. The first step
Yeah,
to addressing the problem is admitting you have a problem, and you're a
there is no
cheeser.
problem. They are perfectly balanced armies. I like themed armies that revolve around the central theme that that fills certain parts, certain niches in an army. Uh, wow, wow, Louis, wow,
Louis is
wow.
dropping these bombs in the chat. It's like casual.
Excuse
Most of DF
you.
players, Kesh not included.
Excuse you.
Ulu,
Wow.
cheeser ka rin, Louis.
Yes, Louis is also a cheeser. Like, what does he play? Elves. You, you see, Louis is an elf player, and you cannot trust an elf player. So if the elf player says that, like, I'm a cheeser, therefore it is a lie. Simple as that. Elf player says something, it's a
Ooh,
lie.
there's
Hmm.
a request for absolute newcomers. So maybe we can
Yes,
do that
we can
sometime.
do an AOS episode for absolute newcomers. That's a very good idea. We can actually work on that. So see, Louis plays Stormcast and Elves, the two most broken things. All right. So The raffle is
Okay,
now closed, so everyone who signed up for the raffle, DR, I have no idea how you're doing the raffle thingy. I assume you have some sort of software or like um, magical raffle thingy.
I have a basically all your entries go to a Google Sheet, and I am going to use like Google Sheet functions to determine what prize each person gets.
All right.
Uh, for our first participant, Jez, let me roll for what prize you get. Sorry, I typed my formula wrong there. That would be Jez gets a an Age of Sigmar pin.
Oh,
Congratulations,
nice,
Jez. Jez
nice.
gets an Age of
The
Sigmar
best of
pin.
the lot. Nice. Right.
Next is Zach.
All right. What does Zach get? Note that Zach already bought the Dominion box set, so anything he's getting here is a duplicate. So what
Oh,
is
okay.
Zach getting two of?
A War Scroll card sleeves.
Ah, nice, nice, nice. He'll have enough
Yeah,
War
yeah.
Scroll card sleeves for a whole army.
Sleeves are always good. Sleeves are always useful.
Yes, and you can't actually get these War Scroll card sleeves anywhere else except in like this freebie pack. So
Next is Your Majesty Milan is
da Milano,
getting
get.
an Age of Sigmar pin.
Oh, Milano, congratulazione.
The next person is John. I think Jonathan in the comments
Hmm.
is getting also an Age of Sigmar pin. Oof, we're
Oh,
burning through our Age of
congratulations.
Sigmar pins fast.
Uh, don't tag John. He has to read the comments to like to get his thing. Because John is reading.
Okay. And next is D's Nut, Aiden's son.
What?
D's Nut. He asked to be referred to as D's Nut.
These not?
Yeah,
Can you
D's
show me
Nut.
that sheet?
Yeah,
I desire to
I,
know who it actually is.
Aiden's son. I won't recite their email here, but D's Nut gets War Scroll card sleeves.
All right, congratulations to these nuts.
And next is Earl Quinto. Also
What's Earl?
gets. He just asked to be referred to as Earl.
Okay, what does the Earl get?
War Scroll card sleeves.
Nice. No one has gotten anything but no one
Yeah,
has
well,
gotten these.
but the next one, Lancelot, as he asked to be referred on the stream, gets the art cards.
Nice, nice. Can you
Nice, nice.
send
Yeah,
me
okay.
that link? I want to know who actually is getting the stuff.
Sure, sure. I'll send it to you later.
Sí, por favor.
Next is Hesed. Tito Hesed.
What is
Tito
Tito Hesse
Hesed
getting?
gets your Kragnos Shield keychain. Congratulations, Tito Hesed, on your
Congratulations,
Kragnos
Tito
Shield.
Hesse.
Uh, Homebrew Horus, as they asked to be referred to on the stream,
Mhm.
is getting the art cards. Okay, so we're
Art
getting more
card.
people winning the art cards.
Okay. One pin, two art cards.
A person who asked to be referred to as Docilerage uh, is also getting the art card. So whoever you are, Docilerage, will send you an email or something. You'll get your art cards. Next is Madman Clown. Madman Clown, you get an Age of Sigmar pin.
Mm,
Nice. Uh, we have Snickron. I have no idea who Snickron is, but you, Snickron, receive a Kragnos Shield keychain.
ayon.
And 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's nice. Eric,
Eric.
Eric, one of our most active commenters tonight, gets the War Scroll card sleeves. Congratulations, Eric.
Congratulations, that's your second set.
Patrick, Patrick gets our last set of War Scroll card sleeves.
So Patrick also gets 2 sets of War Scroll cards. Nice. To note, Patrick is actually like the person who buys War Scroll cards for all his armies. So he is deserving of the War Scroll card sleeves.
Nice. Okay, Elgin.
What does Elijah get?
Elgin is the last person to receive the Warhammer, the Age of Sigmar pin. So now it's
Congratulations,
time for you
Elijah.
to start playing, Elgin. Oh my god.
Again, he has Stormcast.
Yes. Oh yeah.
We see your brother-in-law more than you, Elgin. What happened?
The pandemic, I think. And finally, Vian, our
Oh no, Vian
said,
doesn't get anything. He hates Age of Sigmar.
oh, okay, Vian doesn't get anything. He hates Age of Sigmar. It is.
Vian gets a vial of salt. But out of curiosity, what would Vian have gotten?
Vian would have gotten the Kragnos Shield keychain.
Oh, the pretty, pretty keychain. Look at it. It's a squeak. It's a squeak.
And that concludes our AOS 3.0 discussion and FAQ and giveaway. Thank you for all who participated, all 15 of you. Oh my God. Thank you so much.
Right? So
You're doing a lot for the Forge. Go ahead, Kes. You were saying
yeah,
something?
we're gonna try to make this a weekly thing. Sometimes with different people. For next week, we will be discussing the new Kill Team edition with our resident skirmish simp, as he calls himself, Teacher Mikey. So we'll post like a link for when that will be sometime next week. Right. So good night, everyone. Thank you for watching. Next week will not have a raffle, but it will also have a lot of content. Unless I find stuff like lying around from like previous giveaways of 40k that I can give you as giveaways. I may have, but like there's a lot of mess in my room. So giveaways are still pending, but we will be having a stream.
Okay. And a shout out to Trisha O'Bannon and Now Open PH for helping us make the stream happen. Thank you so much. Good night, everyone. Keep playing.
Yes.